Alright. This construction's getting to be shitty, man. It would help if I turned the fucker on, I guess. All kinds of issues today. Today, had some time to kill. Nice day, summertime, of course. You don't need much of an excuse to go riding. So I decided to take a little ride out to North Lake, out to this little place called Hollywood's Roadhouse. A little biker bar. Kind of cool little place. And so I tried a different mic setup because I've been having like issues with background noise when I'm going really fast. So I'm kind of garbled, and so I feel as though I have to speak louder, and when I speak louder, it gets a little staticky. So, rode out there, talked about some subjects, that kind of like random shit like I usually do. Surprise, surprise. She was just opening up, so she was like in the basement part of this place. So I kind of went in there, and there was a couple of bikes in the parking lot, but there was like a restaurant supply truck out front, and I was like, so there was nobody upstairs in the bar part, so I kind of like stuck my head down the steps and like, hey, what's going on? And she was like, yeah, we're open. I just, got a late start, whatever. They hosted a big pig roast day before that, so kind of got a late start on everything. I was talking to her for a while. Got some history on the place from her, because I guess her stepmom owns the place and she just works there. She's a college student. And I was going to leave. Had a beer or two, was going to leave. Lo and behold, somebody walks into the bar and like sits down a couple of stools away from me. Some guy I used to work with like 18 years ago in Milwaukee. Last person in the world I expected to see there. So I caught up with him. I didn't get too much of that on video. I just got a little bit of the conversation we had, but I told the wife I was only be gone for about an hour. It ended up being about 2.5 hours. I was catching up with this guy. But lo and behold, in my haste to figure out my issue with my mic and stuff, I connected it wrong, I connected it up wrong. So all that time, all that possible great footage that you viewers could have saw, there was no audio. So today, I was going to ride anyways, but I wasn't really counting on vlogging, but today is going to be kind of like a makeup vlog. It's a little bit too early to go out to Hollywood's, and I got some shit going on later on today, so I'm not going to be able to do that, but it's going to rain like a motherfucker later on, they're saying. I decided to go out and talk about some of the things I was talking about yesterday. I know it's kind of like kissing your sister and shit, but gotta do what you got to do, right? Take a little ride. Oh boy. First off, let's start out with the main subject, which is the crazy skunk lady that lives on my street. One of my neighbors is a widow for about 3 years now. 70 years old. Always had like cats and dogs and shit. And kind of kept around for a little bit too much longer than she should have. They're kind of like arthritic and suffering a little bit. They couldn't see too well. Kind of had to pick them up, bring them outside, pick them back up, bring them inside. Well, anyways, her dogs passed on like a year or two ago, where she had to put down. And then she had a cat that was like 27 years old, some shit. And then she had a put that down. Like in the beginning of the summer, she came up to me one day while I was mowing the lawn, and I was like, yeah, what do you need? And she's like, if you saw some skunks back here, would you get upset? And I was like, what? She's like, I got a family of skunks that live underneath my shed, and they come into my backyard at night through an opening in the fence, because she does gardening, like vegetables and shit, so like half of her backyard's like a freaking garden. As long as they don't come in my yard, it's fine. And she was like obsessed about these baby skunks. And they're cute and shit, I guess, but they had a mother skunk in there. And you know, animal mothers in nature, man, they fucking defend their babies like you wouldn't believe. So I'm thinking, I got 2 dogs myself. Dogs get a little bit too close to the fence and they're out. They get sprayed. That's no bueno. But I was like, as long as they're not coming over my yard and my dogs don't get, you know, sprayed and shit, I don't care. So she was like, okay, you know, I don't want to like inconvenience you guys or whatever. So I just like enjoy watching these skunks. Like, whatever floats your boat, lady. And she's a nice lady. She's not like she's kind of like Mrs. Crabtree from like Bewitched, that old show from the 60s. Like always sticking her head out the window and like the neighborhood crier, like letting everybody know, hey, this person's doing that. Kind of a busybody, but harmless, nice. She's like way old school. She grew up on a farm with like 12 kids and her family. She actually, the other day, she was out there like fucking putting new feathers in her pillows and shit. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I do this once a year. Like, damn, what is this, little house in the fucking prairie? Whatever, you know, and she like doesn't believe in dryers, so she has a washing machine. She hang dries all of her shit. And, like, next thing she's gonna be doing is wearing a fucking bonnet, churning butter in her backyard. But you know, we're the beneficiary of that because she makes all kinds of bakery, homemade. Everything she makes is homemade. She doesn't believe in like buying shit when you can make it, which is kind of cool. So we always get like bread and sticky buns, funky bread and all that other shit. One night I happened to be sitting out there enjoying a beer on my patio, and I noticed she was out there, like by the fence, like looking towards her shed in the back of her yard. I was like, what, was she putting food down there? Sure enough, she's putting food by the opening of the fence to like bait him to come in her backyard further. Like, I was like, I didn't really have a problem with that shit, like as long as it stayed in her yard, but this shit's getting closer and closer to my property. I wasn't about to say anything, but I was kind of like, what the fuck, lady? So every day for about a week or two, those baby skunks and the mother skunk were getting closer and closer to her back door. And I'm like, this isn't cool, man. So I had to like put my dogs on leashes and shit and like be really careful with them. But she got to a point where they're coming up to her back door.
Later.
Two lift action. So one day she comes up to me. Hey, you didn't say anything to anybody about those skunks. And I was like, no. I know it's the past like 2-3 days. I haven't been seeing them. And I'm like, oh, maybe the babies got old enough and they just moved on. No, that's not it. Somebody chased them off, or a predator got them, or whatever. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Well, meanwhile, she's been like trapping squirrels and chipmunks and shit. And like, bringing them to a local park to release them, live traps them. Anyways, fast forward to a couple days from there, she's standing on my porch. I just got out of bed because I work nights, and so I get up about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon from my nap. It was a pretty nice day, so the wife had the windows open and stuff, and it's like, man, I smell skunk. And she's standing in front of our house talking to my wife, and my wife's just like shaking her head and shit. Well, what happened, she ended up live trapping one of the babies, and it fucking sprayed her. So, like, I've been trying everything. I've taken like 3 showers, trying all kinds of shit. They play with fire. Well, anyways, just talking to my wife again a couple days later. Like a little perturbed, like she was a little upset about shit. And after a while, I got done talking to my wife came in and said, "You're not going to believe it." But she told me, and I was like, "What?" Well, we have a older neighbor who lives like kitty corner from us that traps like live trap shit. He's got like vegetable gardens and shit, so he like live traps varmints, but he doesn't release them, if you know what I'm saying. Well, this older gentleman was helping my neighbor out with live trapping. Like, she had a bunch of live traps, like let her borrow them and stuff like that. And she had seen them at church a few days before that. To me, I give a bigger trap. I want to get more than just, you know, one little varmint at a time, so I can come out of it like that. So he came over there, had a trap in his hand. She started talking about the skunks, and he kind of like, this is what my wife told me she told her. He was like, oh, and she kind of smiled. She goes, did you see the mother skunk? Yeah. That'd have been one of my traps. Well, did you release it? She said to him. It's like, nope, went swimming. So, that's what happened there. And so now, needless to say, she doesn't talk to him anymore. But, you know what? Better that skunk's out of there, and me or my wife and my dogs being sprayed and shit.